Hello, folks. How are we doing? Here we are with another edition of the Political Minute. And underneath everything, while there is the Ukrainian War, and I do have people over in Ukraine, tried sending $15 in a test thing to certain people over and over, I do believe that there is something major more with this. And most of the money is like this. I got one refunded back. And then they said, try this one. This will do. It may be somebody who's over there who's using old dead photos from the instigational stuff over here in Knoxville. I will always say it was never a racial riot. It was a continuation of things with World War II and the Roman Empire and enemies of the United States that stem from that. And as it is, join the Crusades with it, from World War I to anything else out there, all the way back to the book. And I will show it to you because I know no one will believe me. It's a 3-part book, Clash of Eagles. It is a wonderful book. It is a wonderful read. One of the people for it, or however it is, that is part of that and everything else, as well as some of the Roman people that I've had the privilege of knowing or disprivilege of, and kind of like it's an impromptu interview. So make your own memoirs. Have brought up and are involved in that live around here and up in the mountains, from natives to others. And I will say it is an interesting situation. Now, with the Ukrainian situation, what I think is really brewing here is a continuation of World War II. Yes, Putin is calling for denazification. They say that the president of Ukraine is Jewish. In a way, I'm like, there used to be a lot of Zelenskys around here. I know 1 or 2 people have changed their name because it would give them access to those people later in life, and they bring them all the diamonds from whenever they died, because they have everything set up for lineage proof unto them. And anybody whose name is Zelensky sells diamonds because it's got a Z and has Zell in it, like Zellers or Sellers or anything else. Now, with this, I don't care. I'm throwing mud around there, and if you said it hit you, obviously you must be guilty. If your name just happened to be that, or else anything else and everything, it's not meant for you. These people are monitored by the government. Don't care anymore. I'm out of debt. Wait until I get $2,000 or $3,000 in savings. That's like discretionary spending, and I can be like a mad spender scientist or something else in my poor self, living however it is. But with this, I will say Putin, if he marches all the way, since he is an Eastern Orthodox, and the Mussolinis are the Third Reich or the Eastern Orthodox, he will march all the way to Rome if he needs to. And if he needs to take Nicaea, he will. This is just a thing for him to draw out as many World War II people, doing certain things like the long column of troops, and having all these foreign fighters come there. He is purposely doing this. It's like this. The real general of everything in the Russian army is General Winter. They know how to survive winter. They show them going in and raiding gas stations and stuff. No, they're just going in there taking what they want and looking at some of the surveillance equipment and taking money and things. Even with that, they're not really doing anything, and they're even hooking up their own system, since it is a national network, to go back through, and it will eventually overload the system and go back to the main Ukrainian area. This system is set up. I even know people who blow it and burn it on the power lines and everything up and down the coastal areas, so they can get rid of the hive mind and hack in. And when American hackers hack in, it leaves a smoke trail. Like each little circuit chip just burns, and there's like a burning smell of like electrical fire smoke. And it's like I was standing there when they were doing it, and I go, oh my God, it's Graham's program. This guy's name goes by Graham. He tends to look up everything like that. What they're doing is basically putting in a separate situation that goes over that and will probably reverse everything. And will pick up everything in Romania from when it was behind the Iron Curtain. It'll pick up everything in Poland. It'll pick up everything in Czechoslovakia. All the way out to certain things in East Germany, probably, if they've not removed and retrofitted this completely. And most of it all works on vibrational technology. Basically the same way how you can talk through almost anything, like a piece of string, or talk through a kazoo. A lot of people can't hear that, but over in Russia, right after World War II, it's the first thing they wanted to take out. But anyway, that's a little geek thing that I digressed on severely. Moving on to the real situation, the politics of Putin. Putin is a very devout Eastern Orthodox. He was brought up on charges over and over and kept moving up in the Soviet Union. And we did have a lot of things that we were supposed to always make sure, since so much of their industry was destroyed, that we'd always make sure they were solvent, because we were allies with them in World War II. We just didn't trust how they handled the assets from the Nazis. They never trusted us how we handled the assets from the Nazis. Anywhere there's something like Golden Dawn in Greece or anywhere else, he's going to go to. And in this, basically anything that's golden will only be able to be held by China. So China will be brought in inevitably eventually. Right now is the time of Brazil. 75 years after to 91 years after. China will eventually come in and will unify all of Europe. Russia will probably move all the way over. There's only one other group that I know that's separate than this that looks at it totally differently. It says that a small little country will come up and will take over and march with the Eastern Orthodoxy and everything. And they are horribly awful. They hack my car all the time. I'm glad that they've taken out most of the microwave situation at the house. I can only feel something maybe if I walk back and forth across. But I've actually gotten my dad's earphones and held them up there in between that and go, none of y'all can hear that? No, I don't know what you're talking about. And they show up in the house and they take a razor blade and cut it and say, that's what the sides of your head look like, where your temporal hearing lobes are. Don't interfere with our communications. And I can listen to John T. Cocker, who had a huge security firm over there. I can listen to Tactical Advantage if I hold it between the... and this is like a couple of years ago. No one ever believes me. And it's like, I didn't have a recording cell phone at the time or whatever it is. And we'll hold it up in between there. And they're like, you will not do that. And it's like, I told them that they took things off. My dad videotaped a couple of things out there for some bird that he said was a pest. And that they were going to try and do something about it. And it is outside of its natural habitat zone. It overcompetes with fish and everything else here and has no natural predators. And then therefore it should be removed under Fish and Game. But it's not. And it doesn't matter how many there are here or anything else, they just come in and they remove them until there's none found. And as it is, it's just what comes up. But they took that off of his phone, and he said that video disappeared and everything. It's like, well, they're doing you like they do me now. Anyway, I digress again into another geeky situation instead of staying with the real political situation, even though politics is becoming more and more technologically advanced. Putin's ability under the Third Reich, if he goes all the way to Rome, takes Nicaea, which is basically going into Greece, and everything else in the heart of the heart city of the Eastern Orthodoxy, he can be crowned the Holy Roman Empire. and everything else, because the Holy Roman Empire was advocated to the Pope from Austria in the 1800s. There has to be an Eastern Orthodoxy that will rule this way. The only situation is after Putin gets all these technological things together, after he drags in as many foreign national fighters that knew how to fight in World War II Russians and could speak Russians, destroys anything over France and its other areas in connections to Russia, because there are some French foreign fighters that are going there to help the Ukrainians, they will be gone. And Russia will be almost open to steamroller through and not try to have things look like a computer battlefront, which I think is what he's trying to do. And General Winter is over, and Lieutenant Mudd has came there, so they know to just basically sit there and bring everybody to them. And then once Sergeant Summer comes, they will move their way across the Mediterranean areas as one would never have believed before, dodging rain and all the other forecasts for it throughout the Romanian mountains and everything, and just leaving isolated pockets wherever they are, and they will starve them out because they will have the most bread. And they're not made to digest wheat or live off of, not made to digest rice or live off of natural vegetation in the area. It's one of the reasons why you should always eat local greens and stuff and maintain some ability for that. Even if you have to plant your own dandelion seeds. Most people think you're going to go off and you're going to live off of deer meat and everything else. I'll be honest. I got these over here at Costco. You're going to be living off of, if you're in Europe, chestnuts, because they still have them. Over here, it'll be acorns. It's going to be the main thing of your protein and fat and everything else that you're going to have. And then greens. I'm just saying, most people can't live that way. And as it is, dropping an oxygen bomb, a vacuum bomb, in those areas isn't going to be noticed. I mean, I mentioned earlier what a vacuum bomb really is and does, and it's not an explosive device, it is a chemical device. It changes the oxygen to carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. It's what kills most people in fires. There's no fire, it'll dissipate, the vegetation will take it on, and the cloud will move away. It has a central apparatus that drops, hits the ground, shoots off canisters in different directions, and looks like you busted a CO2 thing just with gray black smoke, or busted an aerosol can paint. You ever seen anybody shoot one? The only other situation is if Ukraine can hold out. I do know that there are a couple of old, and this is going to inflame the situation even more, a couple of old, really powerful Nazi families. One of them they even mentioned around here that have sent someone back over there. And I'm going, with that name, they are part of the Ukrainian death camp that was there. I tried to start writing a story for all the stuff that I turned in, since I have like 10 volumes at the Library of Congress of about 100 tapes each, 45 minutes front and back. And yes, a lot of it's over Al-Qaeda and stuff and everything else. And I was actually contacted over the Nazi African situation by Arthur House and also the people that did Legally Blonde and a Christian writing group. And honestly, the Christian writing group was the only one that said, basically in a way that wasn't like they were going to sue me, but seemed really evil. And Arthur House told me I had to give him $13,000. My name would be on nothing, and it's the only way that it could be done. And that was just it. And Legally Blonde was out there going, and I've watched them work in the area because they do have a lot of people that work here. They will sue anybody for any small thing and be like, you degraded us. Was there any pictures you want to give us for the covers? Anything else? And if you don't have everything in a row, they will sue you and get rid of you. And take it all for themselves. You'll never see a dime of it. The Christian place probably was going to say that my grandfather and them all did military talk and back then and everything, or my great uncle. And it's like this: they were into color brigades, no different than how Patton and 3 or 4 1,000-man groups were taken out because they weren't really part of the color brigades, because they weren't black, African. And that was just how it was. And my great uncle was moved over to the white brigades to go on Normandy because they didn't have enough people. But that was it. Now, looking at some of these people that had gone back over that were with the Nazis in the death camp over in Ukraine. Now, their stuff outlined and put into a huge story and everything. It's going to be part of a major book that I'm going to do called The Pentagram of Mussolini. And it goes through France, West, Central, and East Africa, and the Ukraine. And I started this thing off and on for 10 years, but until lately, all of them have broken into the house, done anything they wanted to. They come through for food checks or anything else, tell us what we're supposed to be eating, everything, and all of this. And I think that I'm finally at a point that I can be economically stable and finish that. But their philosophy with this one small group that's very powerful in 5 different groups and was sent out by Mussolini himself just outside their inner circle. While they partied with them, they weren't the ones who stayed behind at Rome. Let's put it that way. So you can say that still means they are, doesn't, whatever it is. They believe basically if they go over there, they can either sacrifice the Jewish leader in some way, and then all the people underneath them will follow them, and they will be able to spread out. And I'm going, and it's always got to be from a really small little country. And I'm going, well, it'll be Albania, Macedonia, or Moldavia. They'll go there and they'll take over with a private army, something else, some small country. And I'm not trying to make fun of them or belittle them, but this is their philosophy. And they'll be like almost all Jews and will corrupt them. And you'll find out where orcs will come from, because they're all the elves that were corrupted. And it's like, don't they live in France under your logic of thinking? And I just look at it, and now we have this situation going on where Putin can be the huge power like Charlemagne and go all the way to Babylon and come back to Rome, and the Pope is like, you're greater than me or something, or else you're the risen Second Reich, whoever it is, and he coordinates him no matter how many times he says he can't and he's not really there for it. So with that, they have that. That or else they go in there and, it's like, and Putin kills Zelensky, and they take over and all of this. Or else Zelensky fights, marches all the way to Rome, and he's christened and coordinated that. And basically the whole Roman Empire, which I go, Zelensky can't do this because he can't be communed into Catholicism if he's Jewish, goes on a killing spree with all the unknown, unregistered Jews that just weren't on reservation that lived in the eastern areas. And he goes out there, and everywhere that the Orthodoxy can go, that Byzantium went to, he conquers all of that area with everyone and kills all the Jews by names that aren't known as Jews, because they have to kill Jews every day for all the sins that they've done as the Holy Roman Empire. That's why when they took over Mexico, they just go around there and they'd shoot random people, and you see all these old westerns with the Jews dressed in white and like the straw hats so they can be seen very easily and stuff, and they're just shooting them in their own death pits that they're digging and everything else in the 1800s. And people never understand that. My grandfather took me through it with some other people in the family, and they're like, don't ever mention it. And it's like, whatever. And a lot of Latin American countries used to be 80% Jewish, now they're down like 20 to 40%. Anyway, moving along, there's this one other theory in this with the war situation. Somehow or another, I guess Zelensky gets killed, Putin gets shown as righteous, Israel comes to the front of it, but there's one of these pretender groups that used to be for all the kings of Europe and stuff. And that's why it's like in Schindler's List, you see the bag of photos that falls out, and it's like if you look like them, pretend to be them and say you're a refugee from there and find out where the Jews are at. There's a lot more other dogma with it or anything else, but that's basically it. And there's other dogma activations. And Israel comes and stands at the front of the army. Putin somehow like is old, tired out, and dies or something else, and continues on, because there was something about how Charlemagne continued on for this previous ruler. And there's a fake Pope Pius, because all these people that were underneath all the kings and everything, and then came underneath, and Mussolini was like, well, they're really Christian, so he gave them to the Pope, who was Pope Pius, I think, the 14th. And he reorganized them and constituted them all for each and every single place in the entire world to go out there, and they do have the ability to replace Jews and lead them and everything. Now, that would be saying that someone replaced Benjamin Netanyahu, looked close enough like him, or else whoever the prime minister is, which a prime minister is underneath a king, and they don't mention and make public who the king of Israel is. And then they would march all the way to Rome and be that way, and then go on a kind of like killing spree. And I'm like, yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu is really a Nefertili, and whenever he's speaking and saying that he's Jewish or of Judah, means that he's the big bully slave in Rome Vatica, because that's what Judah means there, kind of like Benjamin, Simeon, and Levi means something totally different in Latin, and it sounds really much, it's like they're talking like Old Testament Hebrew or something. It's like, no, they're really not. Well, it's Old Testament crossed with like Hebrew or something. It's, Aramaic. That's what it is. It's like, no, it's really not. Once you throw in Aramaic to it and you know it and you can go along with it, it sounds even more closer, but it's not. And it just really gets kind of more and more crazy once you think about that. But in this, while Ukraine is basically, I'm really sorry for it in this point, I really do have a very deep connection in a way to it, but I do think that there is something that is moving on past there. And you can be like, you were so much with Patton and everything else, and how you have an affiliation for him or an affection from your grandparents' generation, and Hannibal supposedly went all the way over there and died fleeing the onslaught of the Roman Empire and everything, and that he probably has relatives and lineage over there. And I'm just saying, with this all and everything else, I don't really think that there's going to be that much hope for everything. And it's like, I remember this one lady saying, after Putin's done with us, he'll be coming for you. And it's like, without a doubt, it's just, how do these prongs go? And which avenue is the current events going to make history? I'll sign off from here with this.